and comfortable and they were having and they're at and it's terrifying. Yes. Yeah, and he times out it was a symptom. Yeah. Holy.
We're just getting arranged for the interpreters.
Good.
Hi, yes. Good afternoon. Hi, Divya. This is Bapa speaking.
Great.
This was a very good presentation. And today I have a question for you.
Wow. Great.
I wanted to know, for your work here in India and Nepal, what is your plan after that? What are you going to be doing after that for continuing to work and make sure that you can keep that connection with the Usher Syndrome Coalition of India? That's my question for you.
What that is. Yeah, I can think about it.
This is Divya speaking. That's a good question.
I did it. Yeah.
I've actually learned quite a lot from all of you, and I'll be learning quite a bit from the people in Nepal as well. This is the very first step of a much longer journey. When I get back home, I'm going to be able to take all of this information and figure out a way that we can start some discussions with the organizations in India as well as Nepal. First, obviously, the Usher Syndrome Coalition will be able to figure out how to get more people involved and develop that organization and help it to expand. And then in Nepal, there is a similar organization, and that's going to be a similar process as well. We're going to be adding some education pieces for some of the people in Nepal as well. And we're going to try, I'm thinking about going into the school system or the UN and finding a lot of information about how we as Americans can help work together with the people in India and Nepal and help develop that network of connections so that we can all work together. Just the way that you teach and educate traveling around the world for technological access, that similar idea is what I want to develop for education as well. I want to take what I've learned from this trip and the connections that I've made with the people that I've met and build that same type of network. That's not something that any one person can do alone. We need to all work together as a team to develop that. So when I get home, I will be working on figuring out the resources for how we can make that happen and support both countries.
This is
Can't broadcast.
about. Yeah, it's in the line.
Bob, this is Bob speaking. Okay, great.
Fine. Oh, it's ready.
Are there any other questions?
About the make it a beginning. Invited the feet. It's a big. Again, the dark was bad. You know, Harry.
I'm sorry, yes, sir.
I am Arthur. AAPHAI. And my question is, what is the role of technology, and specifically the assistive technology, that you foresee towards achieving the vision that you have showcased us, that is self-reliance and independence? And what is the level of acceptance currently in the specifically in the Deafblind community?
Like they can jam it down, and I said, then I think that yeah, get it and come with that. See that that happens. Great of the project.
This is Divya speaking. Technology is critical, of course. We do work, I do work as an advocate for assistive technology at City Hall as well. I work with employers and show them the research about what's coming and how they can help people with accessibility become successful in relation to a variety of disabilities. For example, broken sidewalks and that sort of thing. I let people know when something like that is not going to work, it is not accessible for people with vision loss or mobility issues. And I research and write those reports and send that information to the government so that they could make those adjustments for accessibility. The same thing with technology. I know that here in India and in Nepal, technology accessibility is still developing. And so what I need for you to do as a group in your everyday lives is communicate. What kind of technology do you need and do you use? So that we can take that information to the government and let them know what's necessary. Because you'll see that this is life-changing to be able to make those connections and communicate. Of course, we have to do the research. Whatever you want to, what type of technology you need to avoid being isolated so that you still have access to each other as well and are able to communicate. That isolation causes depression and a host of other issues. And being able to develop those connections and that network around the world is critical. Whether you're looking at Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, watching movies, those sorts of things, it's very isolating to not be able to access that sort of thing. And technology is critical and necessary for that communication access. It can be life-changing. In the past, I didn't have any accessibility technologies available to me, assistive technologies.
Why did I do the thing in see? Well, my laptop that day. We haven't got permission. That's need to be done, but
We're taking the moment for the interpreters to catch up.
I didn't know it. I didn't go out. I did.
So, in the beginning, I was completely ignorant of what assistive technologies were available to me. No one was available to teach me that at that time. I learned along the way, and also Boppin has so many technologies available to him, and he's so skilled with that. I saw what he was able to do and learned from him, and that really changed my life. We use those assistive technologies in everyday life. And for example, later on, I was able to get my phone and I could send messages to everyone and communicate for myself. And I developed all those connections, and it was amazing for my self-esteem. And that technology, assistive technology, is really life-changing.
What we can, it's kind to him. We don't
But it is odd. Just a moment, please. We're finishing up the interpretation.
the captions quadrant. And
Because
I'm trying to put the text in it, it's like, because in it, it's different there.
oh,
Done it.
Fighting is odd to be.
God. Well, I thought they would about it.
because
My question is,
In which profession do you know about total travel? What did a government opportunity term and avoid nothing in this one?
and so I studied which profession
Do we prefer for the government opportunities? It's nothing. Bad.
is something. It's just good.
This is Divya speaking. The profession that I prefer for employment opportunities in this world is advocacy. Advocacy. That's who I am. I want to reach out to people and find out how to lead and guide educators and family members to help people be successful and advocate for themselves. That is my focus of who I am. I prefer working with governments and communities to develop those opportunities. So that is my focus, is advocacy, specifically in education as well. As far as other opportunities for other people, there's really nothing formal specifically, but the world is available for that. I mean, with advocacy, I can do a lot to help educate the educators and talk to staff in different locations, in different areas of the world. So that's what I focus on when I'm traveling, to make sure that I can focus on that and do that education and teaching for other people. Just a moment, please.
hello.
My name is Will. Just a moment, please. Hold on. Communication rules, please wait till you recognize before you stand up and start speaking. Wait.
Okay.
If I can keep around how to compromise, I'd be closer. But
Go ahead, Sunil.
It's just effective.
But I think these some other people.
These brewing things. Hello, you're I'm Samir.
And
And I'm Silas this.
how that.
So I want to say that this presentation was amazing, but I have one question for you, Divya, on your advocacy.
Based on it's like about
So, kissing.
how to do it.
Just a moment, we're going to get some clarification for the interpreter.
That's we were advocacy or association. Which words? What do you think? In your example, as a blind person, I can advocate by myself, or form an association with deafblind people and then go advocate. Should I do it by myself or do it along with an association? That's answer.
You're right. These back.
Just a moment, we're going to wait for an interpretation catch up.
Okay, so something speaking. That's like was a question. So we're talking about it. There are a lot of advocacy in many different places, and I would like to know more from you, all your experience.
Just the hard second.
This is Divya speaking.
Again.
You are correct. They are two different things. Advocating for yourself versus working in an organization. They can be related, and absolutely you can develop those connections. But for me, I talk about self-advocacy first. For example, being able to tell an interpreter, what you're wearing is difficult for me to see your interpretation, and ask them to change it. Put a sweater on or make those adjustments so that they can be easily read as interpreters. That's me advocating for myself and talking to an interpreter about what I need for my communication. At home with my family, there are more accessibility barriers. So I'll have to talk to my family and say, there's something on the floor, I'm not going to see that, I'm going to fall over. You need to make sure those walking spaces are clear. That's me advocating for myself. You can't always do that everywhere. It doesn't happen everywhere, excuse me. As far as advocacy in general, that would be speaking up for the community. I pay attention to what the community's stories are and the frustrations that people have, and then I turn around and speak up to government officials, town officials. We sit down and have these discussions within networks and organizations and speak up for those people who are not necessarily able to speak up for themselves. Organizational advocacy is more of an education action. It's more of education action. And Divya says, are there any final questions before we take a break?
So this is Akhil speaking. I am so glad that you came here and you are sharing your experience. Sorry. Sorry, so my name is Akhil. Akhil Shinoy. Can you interpret? Yeah. So, I want to sign in.
We're just clarifying. Akhil is going to sign in ASL and use the ISL interpreter.
No, he's signing in ISL and she's signing in ASL.
Well, the other way around. I had backwards.
So my name is Akhil Chigai. I'm a deaf person.
Well, I do about it.
And I'm working in the IT sector in the ISHs. So my question to Divya is,
About working with your help.
first, I'm so happy to meet you, Divya, and also for you to come here and share your experience and educate, create that awareness. You're empowering us. You're empowering the Indian deaf blind community.
It should have done to get that.
So Indian governments, it's very difficult in India. Even for the deaf people, they don't support. They even don't support the deaf community. For deaf blind community, the government support is even difficult. India is not US. US has a lot of standards, apps, but that's not the case in India. We are far, far, far behind. But so there is a lot of issues with accessibility in the deaf community in India.
Yes. First means that.
So my question to you is to how do we raise the standard in terms of accessibility, assistive technology? Like where do we start?
They have really strong point for efficient precision and the back of the body. Wow.
Thank you for that. This is Divya speaking. I wanted to give one example. One of the things I was able to do was contact Akhil first. We talked about the fact that there was no accessibility with ISH News at that time. There were no captions available. We were talking about how to make sure access could be made. So I started talking to people and I said, do you have any friends who work at ISH that we can talk to and educate and explain to them what was necessary for access? And they understood what we needed and started talking about making those changes. And so now ISH is able to make those changes, and I've seen that progress, and it's been really positive. And this is just the first step. It is a process that does take time to get through. That's the kind of example that I mean when I say teaching organizations, teaching individual people, and then having that effect ripple out into the rest of the world. Making accessibility possible for all of you as well. For example, ISH uses transcripting as well, as an example, and assistive technology. So that has become more something to learn, to bring to other organizations. Again, this is a first step. For example, in DBYAA, we're just in that beginning process. That very first step that we had to learn about was technology and how to use a support service person, or SSP. At the beginning, there were issues learning how to work together, and that we had to practice and learn because it was new knowledge. And then I went to, in America, I went to our American Congress.
Yeah, we do have.
I know here you guys have Parliament. I went to our American Congress to a meeting there and met with a few different people and started that process. It's a slow process. You start with one person at a time and take that very first step. And then in a year, 2 years, 3 years, we were able to increase that and expand that. This is just how it starts. And as we get more people educated, that can help it expand. For example, the way that Bobbin works with the National Equipment Distribution Program for the Deafblind, the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program, that is the beginning. Just clarification for the interpreter, one moment.
Okay.
I look and that talking about how to
the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program, or NDBEDP. First, we had to pass the law that provided accessibility and started that domino process. And Congress became really fascinated with the idea of being able to use assistive technology. They wanted to explain how it would work, and then that really took off. But first we had to pass those laws and set those programs up before it could expand out into the community. It's a similar idea, but it does take time to see that impact and show them that over the course of business trips and such.
Just talk. Existing. Well, it's the other. 12. Yeah. The other. All of the time. Before.
Do we have any other questions?
You got it. Two of the people out it. Whatever.
Here's the basic stuff.
Sunil has his hand raised.
I don't get involved.
Go ahead, Sunil.
There at the line. Over on the feet. What the game? What does that? Get inferred as a what is it? The character. The big about the guys that's up.
So you were talking about civic advocacy. That is amazing. I think my comment here to all the people here, the deaf-blind women, we should we got this from Divya about what civil advocacy means. That she is from India, and she's doing such amazing work in the US. I'm so happy to see her. She does type BSL, but I think Divya should be learn that BSL and help the deaf-blind community in India. So that's something I want to ask with Divya. Thank you so much. So I think
This is Divya speaking. I really want to.
What
Is to say, like,
we couldn't to go with.
and yeah, crowds that's fantastic. Or what was the one I'm saying for her? Something. Bruce and whole face creating it was the one that had.
You had another question?
It's a to
What capture and thought it.
bad.
One piece of clarification. First, when you raise your hand, wait for Divya to recognize you before you start speaking.
About inside. I need to do it.
Hi, my name is Abbas.
Very fashion.
And I have noticed that there have been some problems with the deafblind community here. As children grow up, we want to make sure that the deafblind community grows strong. So how do you say we do that?
And it's breathing. It's the back here. It's on the clock after something. That kind of
The country of our list. Because the granted us things for the Nicaragua.
This is Divya speaking. That's a really good question. First, I want to address Sunil's comment. Yes, absolutely, that is my goal. I want to learn Indian Sign Language, or ISL. I have been practicing and picking up little bits along the way and trying to sign ISL more than ASL while I am here. And I'm trying to make that happen smoothly. But that is my goal, to learn ISL as well. Now, to Abbas. You are correct that deafblind children need this access. One of the things I wanted to do was to give them a role model to look up to, because if they see me and see what I was able to do, then they'll know that they're able to do it too. And that spreads to them as well. When they learn those things as children, they feel like, wait a minute, if she can do it, I can do it. Just the same as the way things happen in the deaf community. Education, action, learning the culture, the language, and all the things that evolved for deaf children, they have deaf role models to look up to. And that developed deaf culture. We have the same thing for deaf-blind children. Their parents are critical people in their lives. They're the ones who teach their children what they can do. So what I'm looking for is to have those children meet with more deafblind leaders like yourselves to see that you're truly successful. You can fold your own clothes and have your own everyday life skills from the time that they're small. Learn how to clean up. Just take those very first few steps to developing independent life skills. And once they see that they can succeed at those things, that grows and affects the rest of their lives. When they get into their teen years, they're going to be able to more advocate for themselves in school scenarios. And that is so much work at that time as teenagers to be able to make decisions for themselves and communicate those decisions and advocate for themselves within the educational system. And through all of this, we develop deafblind culture and our deafblind language. And I just need deafblind people to be actively showing the world that deafblind people can succeed and give each other something to look up to. Whether you're a leader like me or Babit or Sunil or Pradeep, I want children to feel like they see people in themselves that they can become. They can be leaders as well and bring that tradition forward and show the children how they can be successful and how they can not necessarily do the things that have always been done that don't lead to success. We want to show them deafblind leaders that they can look up to and emulate. And that way they feel like they can do it and move forward.